Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church, Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and this is another video in the series on Cheshire churches. This is the Church of St Oswald, Lower Peover, and St Oswald's is far and away the most impressive of the surviving Cheshire timber frame churches. The Bells of Peover, named the local pub. So there we are. This is, as I say, the church of St Oswald, Lower Peover, the biggest, the grandest, the far and away most impressive of all the surviving Cheshire timber-framed churches. The church here, the oldest parts of the building, date from the 1260s, would you believe it? And the whole, and it's wood. This is a medieval wooden church. It has 17th century additions and certain alterations were made by the Victorians, but it remains very much a building that has developed over time. Here the Victorians have not swept away the box pews. Here they have allowed the church to be what it was meant to be and what it became over the centuries. So let's have a look around and explore this really, really great church. And I'm not overselling things, I don't think. As usual, of course, we start at the west end, and the first thing that you notice about St Oswald's is acres and acres of box pews. Here we are, we're right up against the west door. There is a west tower, obviously that's stone, but acres and acres of box pews. There's the pulpit, and everything else is box pews, basically. Now, as I said, this is a building that originally is 13th century wooden church, and that basically is the nave here. This is the oldest part of the building, and then the chancel beyond. The aisles are enlarged later, and side chapels then are added. So we process here. You can see the nice round font. We'll have a look at that in a minute. And these are the church warden's pews. You can tell because they've got these canopies over them. Most medieval church, well, most rather, churches at the beginning, English parish churches at the beginning of the 18th century and at the beginning of the 19th century would have had pews like this. And they would have been, as you can see here in the nave, just box pews, and more box pews. This has changed over time. The Victorians really didn't like box pews, and certainly the more high church Victorians hated them. And so what they tended to do was rip them out and replace them with horrible, cheap benches. You can probably see what my view of this is. The windows, of course, the stained glass windows here are all Victorian. Here we have, this is very much, of course, to do with baptism, to the honour and glory of God, in commemoration of those who have been baptised in this church. This window was erected Wake Sunday 1891. And then here we have, inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these, least of my brethren, ye have done it unto me. So works of mercy. We have here some of the old keys. Some of the keys, and here, unfortunately, it's partially covered by the COVID stuff. This is an old plan showing everybody's pews, including at the front the gentlewoman's seat. Now, at one point, of course, the seating went all the way to the chancel. You can just see there the communion table, or is that something else? It must be the communion table there, at the end, and the rail. And you can see there's very little in the way of a chancel. And the chancel has the two seats, the gentlewoman's seat and the gentleman's seat. And that would, of course, be that you were having communion seated. Again, this very, very nice font here. And here we have the bread shelves. Now, of course, the bread on them today, I'm pretty sure is replica. Yes, it's replica. But the bread shelves date from 1720 and 1739, and what it is, and these were quite common at one point, that you would have a bread charity. This is for the very, very poor people of the parish, and every Sunday there would be new bread, and the very poor would take them and have the bread distributed to them. So it's a way of keeping people from starvation. As I say, the aisles are a slightly later addition. You can see how the timber of the aisles is different. There would have been aisles originally, and they would have been smaller aisles, as at Martin, which we haven't been to yet because it wasn't open today. I expect they have a funeral or something on there. And here, as we proceed up, we have the Mother's Union banner. You can see with the Virgin Mary and Christ, and then St Oswald. St Oswald is an Anglo-Saxon king who is regarded as a martyr because he's killed in battle against the pagans. And here we have the window, the angel window. This is in memory of the Right Honourable John Byrne Leicester Warren, third and last Baron Warren de Tabley, and he died in 1895. So he's the last of the barons that dies without male issue. And the pulpit. The pulpit is a lovely, lovely 17th century one, just as the screen there is 17th century. And the parish chest, which is, it's a very, again, you've got your multiple locks. It's of course kept locked because it's got valuable stuff in it. And here we have one of the two side chapels, and because the organ's in it, you can no longer get in that way. And there's you can see the pulpit and the reading desk beside it. So it's effectively a two-decker there. So we have to go back this way, back past the bread shelves. A reminder of the importance of the church to poor relief back in the day. Obviously the government's taken over a lot of what private charities used to do. So there we go, right up the centre aisle. And what we've got, basically, what you've got is you've got your 1269 church, and what it's made of is primarily oak, and then you've got wattle and daub panels that fill the spaces on the outside, and the wattle being woven wickerwork, and reed, and daub is just basically mud. 1464, you've got the present aisles are built. 1610, you've got the Shakerley aisle, the Shakerley chapel of the south aisle, that's this one, and then 1624, the Holford chapel in the north, and that just basically takes over the vestry. 1852, there's some more work, and there was a choir gallery at the west end, and the roof was originally a single span. It's now a triple gabled, and that's all 1850s. The pews date from 1620. So, nice 17th century box pews. And we proceed with, obviously, icons and things, that's all modern, higher church type stuff. And when we get into the chancel, much of this again is original woodwork. You can see here the choir stalls. These have the Cholmondeley arms, not Cholmondeley. We may be related to the family. I suspect more likely we were once some of their villains or something. But the Cholmondeley arms on the choir stalls, they were at one point lords of the manor here. But the stalls replace what we saw in the plan. That you would have had the gentlemen's benches and the gentlewomen's benches, and again the pulpit there. Looking all the way west, there would have been a west gallery. That's gone, but that would have been where the musicians were. Again, the Victorians did a little bit here, but less than they did in many other places. Again, these really nice, solid 12th century woodwork. There's the organ, stuffed back there in this side chapel, and of course the vestry there. And big long communion table, that is under there a 17th century table, and 17th century rails, and of course it's wainscoting panelling that separates off the side chapels. Here we have, yes, the body of Jane Cholmondeley, relict of Thomas Cholmondeley, yes it is, it's pronounced Cholmondeley, of Holford Esquire, and daughter of Edward Holland of Denton in Lancashire Esquire, who departed this life December the 16th, 1696, etat sue 78, age 78. And more brasses over here. You will notice, of course, it's brasses because you've got to screw them onto walls. This is Reverend Arthur Guess, 34 years, the beloved vicar of Lower Peover, AD 1877 to 1911, and there he is with the Bible and with the communion plate and the chalice. And looking again all the way west, and this lovely medieval roof, and the nice, obviously that's a Victorian chandelier, but still quite nice, a nice medieval roof there. This again is a bit lazy, it's 19th century, the marble pavement. So through into a chapel here, and here we have Alfred Shakerley of Shakerley in Lancashire, and you can see he's got his helmet on top of his memorial. It's quite common. Obviously, this helmet isn't going to be made specially for the memorial by this point. Given the dates, we've got what 1696, just about the time when you might have been at some point worn a helm in battle, but still, it's quite old-fashioned. And then this really nice, you see these marble. And it's all got to stand on the floor because you can't hang marble off of wooden walls. And then looking back into the chancel. So the Shakerley Chapel is used now. That's a nice chandelier there. The Shakerley Chapel is used as this side chapel. And this is a dugout chest. And what that means is they've just got a whole log and they've dug a hole in it. So the whole thing, apart from the top, is all one piece of wood, and then bound with iron, give it a bit extra strength, and then you've got multiple locks. You've got 3 locks, and then you've also got your 4 shackles that hold it. And currently there's a single bar through them all, but they could have each have had a separate padlock, and that would have made it incredibly strong. This is a very ancient chest. It was brought here from Norton Priory in 1269. And it's the original parish chest then. So there we have the Shakerley Chapel and this very nice screen with its balls on top. And all, of course, local oak, local wood. Nice settle there. Back through the screen, and these screens are medieval, into the nave again. And down, well, I think the nave really into the south aisle, isn't it? And here we have Glory to God in the highest. We've got the announcement to the shepherds. We've got Christ walking on the water, Christ's transfiguration, and finally we have Christ's agonizing in the garden. This is the south door. It's not used anymore. They instead use the west door, and why not? And here we have the parable of the soils. And so, a font again. It's a really lovely font. When you notice that it is hung up there, what that means is there's actually a counterweight mechanism. What that means is that you don't have to take that whole thing off and put it somewhere. You just lift it up and it stays up until you pull it down again. All rather clever. And it's a marvellous example, this, of I'd say the best example, in fact, of your Cheshire timber frame church, the biggest and the best of the surviving ones. So that's the inside. Let's have a look at the outside. And so here we are outside here at Lower Peover. You can probably hear the sound of the children's playground because, as usual, as quite common in villages in particular, you've got the church and the school next to each other. And you can see here you've got this magnificent timber frame building, and then you've got your stone tower, 15th, 16th century stone tower at the west end. And again, it's that reminder that most medieval churches, or many medieval churches, are built without towers. The tower is a later addition, and you can't build a tower in wood, so you have to build the tower in stone, and this nice Cheshire sandstone just to set the building off. So that's the outside, and we'll have a look around and then say a few closing words. And so here we have the outside, and you can see gargoyles on the tower. Gargoyles appear to be held on partially by bits of wire, or some kind of support, which is a good idea, I think. That Cheshire sandstone does erode quite nastily sometimes. And this wonderful black and white, closely spaced timbering that is so very, very Cheshire. And of course the south porch, we noticed inside the south door, doesn't get used anymore. The east end, the chancel, of course, has these two side chapels, so you've got your two big aisles, and therefore the effect is almost that you've got three churches next to each other, each with nave and chancel. The church stands in almost a little close of its own, with the village pub, the bells of Peover, and some cottages, and of course the old vicarage nearby. Careful not to trip over some gravestone there. But here we have the east end. I've just got to get back a bit. There's yew trees and other conifers around here. That's why the east window doesn't get a lot of light through it. But it is this black and white. The infill is painted white, and the timbers are. This isn't, of course, aged black, and they're pitch. It's preservative. Now here we have the necessary facilities, as they say, the church toilets, not internal but external, because of course of the age and the historic character of the building. There's no way that you could possibly put toilets inside, so they've got to be outside. And there we have that lovely tower, that's Cheshire, perpendicular, and the windows have external coverings to protect the stained glass. There would have been stained glass in the Middle Ages, though of course, as we see, the modern windows, well, the current windows are all Victorian, because apparently the original ones, the medieval ones, were destroyed in the 17th century. North door, have to have a north door, and yes, that is the time. It is just gone 1 o'clock. In fact, it was just chiming 1 as I went outside to set up for the initial to camera for that. And you've got houses on it. It's almost like a little close, but it's too rustic to be cathedraly. It's more little, well, it's a lovely place anyway. And again, that looks like stairs down to either a vault or the boiler room in the basement. Boiler room in the basement. And I think that's the village pub, the Bells of Peover. Again, very, very common village pub right next to the churchyard, for various reasons. And there's the door, and it goes in there. Now, just speaking to one of the villagers, and said that the ancient chest we saw inside is perhaps 800 years old, and there's a story that well, in fact, they've looked at it and they've suggested that the wood, the tree, may have been a sapling 2,000 years ago. So it's a 2,000 wood that was 1,000 years old when it was cut, and then 1,000 years later. Magnificent, really magnificent. Just the history that you have here, and it is such a lovely building. So there we are. That's St Oswald's Lower Peover. There's an Upper Peover, but the church there is not open on the whole. It's open occasionally, but it's not open to the public the way that St Oswald's is. And so here we have it. There you have it, St Oswald's Lower Peover, the greatest, the grandest of all the Cheshire wooden churches, with its acres of box pews and its nice perpendicular tower. I mean, what more could you ask, really, from a historic church? Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this. I do love these buildings. This Cheshire Plain has so many interesting churches in it. So again, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until the next time.